us on a Sunday morning. It's wonderful. Thank you. Well, welcome to Fanexpo. And of course, Fanexpo isn't all about Star Wars, is it? There's other things like other stuff. Like Star Trek, any Trekkies here? Get out. I've told you before, I will not have you Trekkies coming in disguise as real people. You come with the horrible coloured clothing and this silly logo. I mean, what is it stand for, please? What is it?
Persephone.
What?
Persephone.
Now there's a beautiful name, Persephone there, ancient Greek name, is that correct? Yeah. So how does a gorgeous girl like you with a beautiful name like Star Trek?
First, I like Star Wars, so there's that.
Yeah, that's enough. Okay, so anybody else like Persephone? Do you like Star Trek? Persephone. I know we have it on this little wink cam going up here. You like to. I know we have a major star from Star Trek here, but let's not talk about Star Trek anymore. Anybody here? No, Star Wars is the thing, isn't it? Yeah. Anybody here? Have you joined my naked? I'm taking pictures of me. Anybody here seen Star Wars film? Over there. Right. Somebody who hasn't seen the Star Wars film, this is incredible. Okay. Where are you? Just stand up. Just stand up. I know it's difficult. Here we come. Right. Why haven't you seen the Star Wars film? Just... You haven't seen one?
In completion.
I've seen them in completion, but you've seen them in bits. That's my brother. 3PO in bits. He's constantly being persecuted and torn apart. Just smile at the camera. Yes. Okay, that's... What is your name?
Francine.
Francine. It's almost as good as Persephone, but not quite. Okay. Francine, have you really never seen the whole Star Wars film? You have, I'm not talking to you this, even though you are dressed as Princess Leia, favourite character, you did better with the second generation. Okay. Because there are now 3 generations and a bit who have seen Star Wars, whatever. But Francine has never seen the whole thing. That's really sad. But on the other hand, she clearly has a life. Whereas the rest of you, okay, let's do a simple thing here. A little count. Favorite film. Favorite film. And remember, there is somebody in this room, this hall, who's been in all 9 films. Let's do the favorite film, episode 1. Okay. Do it again. If you like the film I mentioned, raise your hand upon it. So, ready? Any questions? Are you okay with this? Are you okay with this? Nodding doesn't work. Okay. Who liked episode 1? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, okay. Episode 2. Okay, episode 3. Episode 4. So, Francine, wasn't it? Francine, who can encapsulate in one word only to what would you tell Francine Star Wars is about? You, so stand up, please. Just stand up. Yeah, it means getting a butt off there. Yeah. Okay, just turn this way. Here we go. What would you tell Francine that Star Wars is about? For a big man, you behave awfully afraid. Am I intimidating you? Yeah, okay. What's Star Wars about?
Justice.
Justice. Yes. Oh, thank you very much. That's a read. Yes. What do you think it's about?
4 through 6 were Hamlet, 1, 2, 3 was Romeo and Juliet.
I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong room. I thought this was a Star Wars thing. Okay, it's about Hamlet and Romeo. Did I hear you right? Hamlet and Romeo and Juliet? Yeah, no, okay, I get the idea. Shakespeare. Good. Justice Shakespeare, couldn't you? Yes.
Rebellion.
Rebellion. Yeah, okay. Yes.
Fighting oppression.
Pardon?
Fighting oppression.
Fighting oppression, good.
Family.
Family,
A hero's journey.
hero's journey, these are all wonderful things. All wonderful things are all wrong. Francine, Star Wars is the story of a golden robot. It's all 9 films, and I was that droid. Just saying. So in our little time together, I would love it. Were you clear on that, Francine? Where are you? Yeah, you're good now? Cool. Promise me that you're going to go home and watch all films from beginning number 1 to number 9 at the end, yeah? Yeah, okay, yeah, maybe. So, if you've got any questions, please make this moment work for us all. Something you would want to ask the only person in all 9. Did I already say that? Yes, in all 9 films. If you've got questions about what was it like, which is what people always say, but do ask me what you want. On the other hand, if you were very clever, you would know that I wrote a book. And that book has so many stories in it that probably will answer any question you have. And this is where a close-up gets really important. Okay, this is the sales pitch. Here we go. You see what I mean? And you roll that. Yes, the other good book in this book. Available actually on our Saturday. Can you get it on where I want to? But it's full of interesting stories. I know because I wrote them and they're true. And you will love them. It is also available on CD with myself reading my words and J.J. Abrams, who wrote the preface, also recorded his words. So there we are. That's the end of the sales pitch, okay? Who's got a question they would like to ask? The only person to be in all 9 movies. Yes, sir, would you stand up? Yeah, I'm gonna lead.
So, what's with the red arm?
Oh, what's with the red arm? Well, of course it's in the book. I said I wrote a book, right? The story of the red arm in episode 7. So delightful, J.J. Abrams, absolute joy. In a meeting, he said, oh yeah, C-3PO's got a red arm. Why? Well, red's cool. Yeah, but why? Well, it shows he's been damaged, he's had a history, you know. It's well, like the silver leg in episode 4, he said it was damaged. And I said, nobody really noticed the silver leg. And he said, exactly, red. So I think I was horrified, 3PO was horrified too. So in Photoshop, I did a band-aid thing, rivets, you know, he'd been damaged, he had a thing near the patch with rivets on it, was really cute, I good with Photoshop, and it was perfect. And I showed it to JJ, he said, no, red. So red arm it was. And every day on the set, I would say to him, no forgiveness. However, it did lead to one of the most wonderful lines in episode 8, was it? Who remembers this? You probably don't recognize me because of my red arm. So that was the entire point. And that was a kind of cute one. The red arm, and in fact I had badges made, no forgiveness, which I gave to JJ, whatever. But they're always fiddling with 3PO's costume, you know, and kind of, you can do that with a droid, but you can't do it with humans. Who's got another question over here? Yes, I'm going to come here. Would you stand up, sir, and just, it's a pleasure.
So what was your favorite movie 1 through 9?
What was my favorite movie? Well, to work on or to be in? Because the first one was a nightmare. Episode, well, it was, what was it called? Star Wars. Yep. And we'd been working on the costume for 6 months at the studio, and it still wasn't ready by the time we flew out to Tunisia. And so, on day 1 in the desert, there I was, wearing little underclothes things, and then a whole team of people, 6 people. The costume was laid out on trestles over here, and there was like 17 pieces, I think. And gradually I stood there, and we started with the little corset thing here with the wires on, which is actually just a corset thing with a zip. So now I'm standing there feeling very self-conscious. Now remember, this suit had been made to a mold of my body, right? So it was meant to fit. So we start with that. And then the next thing, of course, is this area. So kind of pulling them on. Whoops. And there we are. And now a leg. And a foot. And a... So now I'm good from here down. And now they come with the front and the back. So now I'm sort of locked in with my arm sticking out, so an arm and a hand. And now I'm like that. And then they come at me with a neck. So that fitted in there. And then came, now this had taken about an hour and a half. And then they came with the head in 2 halves. Think of an Easter egg. This was made of fiberglass. The front's coming here, the back's coming towards me, and suddenly, boom, my world changed. I'm now in darkness and seeing through the little peepholes that are 3PO's eyes. But then they had to take these big screws that went through the front portion of the head, into the back portion, and then into the neck. And as they pushed all that through, they pushed the neck away, so the bayonet clipping couldn't do it. Same this side. And all the time they're saying, oh, bend a bit this way, bend a bit that way. Whoop. It was torture. At one point, somebody put their hand on, come, breathe. Because that's where 3PO breathes. Well, obviously 3PO doesn't breathe, he's a robot, but deal with it, you know what I mean? And so half an hour later, I am enclosed totally. It's taken 2 hours, and we hadn't even started, and I was ready to resign. This was not what I signed up for. But you know, there we are in the desert. There's no local cab firm that I can ring and say, get me out of this horror. I'm now locked like this. And of course, the good moment was when finally they opened the tent flaps and 3PO stepped out into the desert sun for the very first time. And people were in awe. I could see through my little people eyes. I could speak the crew like that. And they were aghast. Nobody had seen 3PO before. And then, so for the American crew was like all over them and said, wow, look at that, it's incredible. What? And the British crew again, that's rather good, isn't it? Yes. And then of course the Tunisian helpers were like, oh. I think that's where George got the idea of Ewoks. They thought I was wonderful. And then of course we get to the set. And, you know, the whole thing with Uncle Owen and I realized I didn't actually know who I was. And I got the continuity lady to take a Polaroid picture, and she held it up, and I said, and she so held it up so I could see, and I looked at 3PO's face, and at that moment I became 3PO. It was kind of weird. A space magic happened with the costume, with the location, the terror of the whole thing. And I'd been working on the script for 6 months, so I kind of had it inside my head, but never totally until that moment. The inspiration of being in the desert and the heat and being locked away was utterly magical. And when I saw the finished film, I thought it was pretty magical too. But it's not me, it's 3PO. And all that story is in a book that I wrote. And there's a copy here, the one remaining copy, I think, in this place. Who's got a question? Yes, let me walk over here. I'm sorry, I ran on a bit now. And okay, so you can come early next time, get a seat, you know. Yes, sir. Just stand up this way.
First off, thank you for all the memories. Second, not only were you in all 9 movies, but you were one of 2 actors to be in the NPR recording of it, Sprint VR. What was that experience like, recording those pieces not in costume and trying to find a character without being in costume?
As you will know, some of you, when the finished film, well, we finished filming and they all went back to America. I went back to my home in London and sort of forgot about the whole experience because it was kind of a bit weird. And then I got a call to go to Hollywood to put my voice on the film. All the way through, I'd been very bad quality. So you needed to redo the voice, to dub the voice. And when I got there, and somebody may have heard this story, I got to the studio and the engineer said, well, hi there, Anthony. He mispronounced my name, obviously. It's Anthony, but I didn't say anything. Hi there, Anthony. You know, it's great to meet you, but it's kind of incredible you got here because, you know, George has spent like a couple of months trying to find a voice for your character because he really hates your performance. And at that moment, George came in. I didn't even say hello. I said, you hated my performance? Never really thought of 3PO as being a British butler. Well, I never thought of anything else, you know. And he could have said, can you do another kind of performance? But anyway, so I spent 3 days redoing all my lines because I had a microphone here and a wire going all the way down to the back. The sound wasn't good enough. And of course the transmitter was plugged into the one space, which was my butt. So all the way through that movie, I'm talking to you out of there we are. So I nearly wasn't the voice of 3PO, and there's no way I would have done a second film if I'd just done the body. And then, of course, because I was the voice, I've been able to do so many things. And as our guest here says, NPR, National Public Radio, then created the most wonderful scripts, much longer than the movies. Brian Daley wrote superb dialogue. And I love doing it. I love doing the Lego cartoons, all the animation, because I don't have to wear the costume. Another question. Yes.
What do you think of the various parodies, like the original one, like 80 and Simon Pegg's parody?
The thing about parodies is you can only really nicely make fun of things you love. You know, if you love somebody so much, we would say take the mickey, whatever, and it's done with affection. It shows a warmth because, you know, Star Wars has kind of created this family, and we have in jokes, and you all know far more about these movies than I do because you watch them far more than me. I'm in them, so I, don't necessarily want to take my homework with me. Yeah. But the parodies, the cartoons, particularly again, I come back to Lego. We have sometimes we're in tears making those things because they're funny. There's not much in Star Wars that's actually funny, well, apart from 3PO, obviously, because 3PO has no sense of humor, have you noticed? And people who don't have a sense of humor really are quite ridiculous and funny and through. So yeah, the parodies are good. And of course, it gives you another dimension, of enjoyment and characterization and so on. Another question? Yes.
I was wondering, as someone who's known for playing a robot, what do you think about the rise of AI in movies?
AI, yes, very difficult. It's in Disney. Don't talk about AI. It's going to happen. It is happening. It has happened. How it has occurred, I don't know. 3PO was, of course, the first iteration, really, of major AI. And in fact, the studio really pretended that I didn't exist. When the film came out, I didn't get any credit because they wanted people to think that they had created this amazing thing. And that was quite hurtful because it wasn't an easy shoot, and I would have liked a bit more credit than they gave me, but that's history now, I guess. Finally, and they put my name on a poster in episode 5. It was a kind of a little late, but there we are. Another question over here, because some outrageous costumes, I love it, but particularly you. And who's over here then? Right. Yes, Supergirl, are you? Or something? I don't know. Can you start coming through? Start coming through. Hollywood legend arriving.
I was wondering, who's your favorite actor or actress that you worked with throughout online films?
Who's a favourite? That's difficult because everybody I don't mention will be furious, won't they? I do have to. Is this my close-up? Jeez. Of course, right in the beginning, there was one person who really amazed me because he was already astoundingly famous, and that, of course, was Sir Alec Guinness. And really, the reason I got the job was he and I were with the same agency at the time, and so the script was there, and they needed somebody who was small and good at mime and cheap, and that was me rather than Sir Alec. But when we arrived in Tunisia, I met him for the first time on the plane, and we chatted, and he was very, very nice. And when we got there, I headed to the bus because there was a bus and a limo, and I knew the limo wasn't for me. But as I kind of wandered off, he got out of the limo and he said, "Have they given you your per diem yet?" I had no idea what he meant. I'd never been in a film. I didn't know what a per diem was. It said, your pocket money, because they seem to have given me rather a lot, and I think you should have some. Oh, how can you not love a man like that? Absolutely adorable. And of course, he went on to be a little unkind about the film. It was an unusual shoot because George Lucas had a particular way of working, and the British people didn't understand it at all. And so there was a bit of conflict. And Gary Cowes, the producer, was always interfering in other people's jobs, and they didn't like that. One of the most famous lighting cameraman, Gil Taylor, told him in various ways to go away. That was kind of interesting. So Alec probably. But then we come on later, and of course Mark Hamill, a real pro and full of enthusiasm and bounce and whatever, and of course Carrie. But then we come right through to Oscar Isaac in episode 79, who took on the role of being rude to 3PO in such a funny way that I just was regularly giggling at his unkindness. It was very subtle, but so much got cut out of that last movie. It's a shame, because there were some nice moments, but then they decided to shovel everything in to impress the fans, and it became a bit of a mismatch. But never mind. The funny thing is that we don't all hang out together. We often meet at events like this. Of course, John Boyega is here. John Boyega, as you know, is a well-known actor, but you may not know that he became my dresser and assistant. We were on this kind of ship thing. I never quite understood it. Like in episode 9, I think, flying through the desert. and I was attached for safety reasons with lines attached to the ship itself, so I could only move in that kind of orbit. So, you know what, 60, 50 feet up in the air, and not having all the crews down here. So if anything went wrong, I was up there with John. So regularly he wasn't tethered to the set, so he would make sure that I had water to sip. And then at one point, I think my arm fell off, so suddenly John Mayoga, famous new actor, is fiddling with my costume. It was quite wonderful. He'll probably, if he ever writes a book, like I did I? Yeah. It'll probably be in there, you know, famous moments of helping Anthony Daniels stay dressed. I loved being, we had such fun. It was actually a vehicle. The ship is on a vehicle. And it zoomed along. It was quite exhilarating. And I'm holding onto the mast, and really it was rocky and everything. And it was all good until at the end of one shot, the driver suddenly stamped on the brake. And the one place that I didn't have a cord on was here. So I reeled back. It was terrifying, but I survived. Another question. Actors, yeah, every actor brings something different. I mean, look what Harrison Ford brought to the whole thing. And his meanness to 3PO was a great boom in episode 4 or 5. Because I was sorry R2-D2 wasn't, because I'd worked hard on that relationship. So to suddenly not be with R2 was like, no. So every actor brings something. Do you have a question? Would you come over here, please? Okay, here's the thing. Would you just turn this way? Oh, no, you're not allowed to do that. No, you're not. Stormtroopers never take that, I promise. Okay, what's your question?
Do you like Spaceballs?
Set of steak knives. Do I like... Do I... Sure. Yeah. Okay, good question. Okay, you can take it. Can I take it off for you? Look at that. Look. Wow, lovely. A superstar in the making. Look at that. What's your name?
Ian,
What was your question, Ian?
did
You see, when...
Oh my god.
I know, there's a scene in episode 6 where the Ewoks are beating up the stormtroopers, and... Are you still here? Okay. And they kept falling over in the forest. And I thought, well, these extras, these actors are really not very good at their job because they keep, you know. And then I picked up one of these helmets and I put it on and I looked through the lenses, and it was like looking down through an empty bottle of wine, all that sort of green. They couldn't see a thing. And it's why they bumped into it. And that's why they never actually shot anybody with their blasters, that they couldn't see. So, what was your question again?
you like Spaceballs?
Oh, did I like Spaceballs? Was that the question? I thought you wanted me to buy a set of steak knives. People in costume have a real problem making themselves heard. It's really difficult for the other actors. Of course, they've had the script, so they know what it should be. But when you've got mumbling or whatever, it can come out rather crazy. Did I like Spaceballs? I loved Spaceballs. Yeah. Did you like Spaceballs?
Yeah, I love it.
But here's the thing. Was that the one with Joan Rivers? Yeah. But here's the thing. Could you hold this for a while? It's very heavy. The interesting thing about Spaceballs, which I loved, absolutely loved, Joan Rivers, absolutely adorable, not at all. There's another one. Oh, that's your brother. You're okay. And what does it never work with anyway? What's your name?
Mark?
Mark. And you are you're a rebel? And you're a rebel?
I'm a rebel trooper.
Okay, and you're a baddie, you're a bad guy, right? The thing about, just stay with me, smile at the camera, wave at your mum there, just wave at that thing there. The interesting thing for me is that Spaceballs was created by two people, Joan Rivers, who was a wonderful voice, and then you had a very, very clever roller skater, yes? Do you remember, in a kind of frock thing? But you watch it again, and there's a kind of mismatch between the physicality of the character and Joan Rivers' personality, character personality. They just don't quite align. And of course, the most important thing to create a character, as I did, in all 9 movies, and some others, because there was like Rogue One, that was another. Yeah, I like Rogue One. But the thing about 3PO is my body, my voice, and my brain, and therefore some kind of central thing. It's one entity. All different parts, but one entity. With Joan Rivers, not so sure. So next time, you go and see if it really works. This is your moment of fame. It's now over. Go and sit down. I'm just going to come into Outer Darkness over here. And somebody over here. Look, I've come all this way. Better be a good question. All right, Princess Leia, come here. So, what's your question? Thank you for this homage to Carrie Fisher. What's your question?
Since you've been in all 9 movies, like
Yes, you knew that. How did you know that?
you mentioned it a few times.
Did I? No, I don't like that. It's a fucking. Did I say right? Yeah, right. Okay.
You have a lot of funny like one-liners in the movies. What's your favorite one?
One-liners. It's a good question. My favorite line is, "We do." Easy to say. It's not exactly a one-liner, but I refer to Harrison Ford and Han Solo being a bit mean to 3PO. All the way good, dramatic thing there, with script writing, but very good, dynamic challenge. But at one point, when the Ewoks, we've already talked about them, no Ewoks here tonight. I trod on one once. There was this, I kept saying, I can't see where I'm going. You have to do what you're doing. So one time, an Ewok got it wrong, and there was kind of, we had some spare ones. There was a moment where we'd just been out of the trap, and that was later. But there is Harrison Ford and Solo over a fire that the Ewoks have lit, and he's unstrung up there. And he's been mean to 3PO now for 3 films. And he says in the script, because the Ewoks are have you ever noticed the 3PO speaks Ewokese? Yeah? And so you've got Ewoks going, and 3PO says, Kuchana. It's like all British people, he speaks several languages, but always with the most important British accent. So there is Harrison over the fire, and he's saying, they're all going, and playing their drums. What are they saying, 3PO? And then 3PO looks at him. It appears, Captain Solo, that you are to be the main course at a banquet given in my honor. So that's my favorite. Yes, this is madness. There'll be no escape for the princess this time.
First of all, yes, you delivered some of the most funnest lines, but you delivered one of the most emotional lines when you said you wanted to take one last look at the movie. Were you not only referring to the cast, the crew, but to the rest of us? And will you be back for another?
That is a very good question. Sometimes you are given a line, mostly you're given a line. George hated it when anybody else tried to write a line. That's why there's some really good stuff there. But then you get a line and you look at it and you say, and then you say it on set. And then the director and the editor leave it exactly how you said it. Actually, he moves me every time. So, what's his name? Oscar Isaac says, "So, what are you doing through here?" You know, he's about to have a brain transplant or something. He's about to die, basically. It's, what are you doing through here? Taking one last look at my friends. I love the fact that you remember that. Yeah. Because sadly, it was the question of timing. There were so many things in that last film which were stunning in the original script. Things, perils happened. What's going to happen now? Oh, but that's already happened. It's disastrous, horrible. That needs to be corrected. It's not being corrected. What's happening? We're worried, we're afraid, whatever. Oh, the relief. If you take out that middle section, you are losing so much of the drama, the involvement of the soul of the audience. And in fact, there was much more of a preamble to 3PO, braving it up to say, yes, I will sacrifice myself. And that was a shame. On the other hand, we still have that line. And then, of course, we have him obliquely telling R2-D2 that, what was the line? Something like, I must say, R2, you have been a very good friend. My best one, in fact. He's very British and didn't want to admit that actually he loves R2. So there's all sorts of things in the Star Wars film. And of course you know that there was only one film at the beginning, yes? Yeah. But it worked. It worked really well. And it worked because people came to see it and they told their friends told their friends, etc. And it went viral. So they made episode 5, 6, 7, and of course 9. Yes, I am the only person to do all 9. And that came through the power of the fans, and that's you, isn't it? That's you, each one of you. Some of you were there at the beginning. Anybody see it on the big screen? Yeah, back in the day, yes. And so you all have these memories. And it does come down to you and your friends, and the love, and making parodies, and making costumes and everything. And so, as I stand here, I want to thank all of you for being here today, for being Star Wars fans, for being there, some of you from the beginning. And so at this point, I will say thank you. And now I am taking one last look at my friends.